Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Day Wave episode 102. Got a good weekend of fights coming up. Before we talk about that, we did get the unfortunate for some, fortunate for others, news that Jake Paul Tank Davis has now been officially canceled. We knew this was coming. This doesn't really come as a surprise at all, but it's just now that the final nail is in the coffin. This fight has been called off after the investigation MVP went through. It's pretty clear they just didn't want to go through with it with all of Tank's allegations right now. Their leading reason was, how much MVP champions women's boxing, and you can't really be someone who is the leader in women's sporting and then also be promoting a guy who has domestic violence accusations against him. Now, part of this, I don't think that's the main reason. If I'm being honest, the main reason is because they just didn't want the bad name around it. I don't think it's fully on their morals. I think that Netflix is like, we don't want to be promoting a guy who just had this happen. We don't want to be platforming them because Tank has had a history of this. This is not the first time that he's been arrested, not even the first time he's been arrested for this exact situation. So they knew what kind of a guy they were dealing with. Jake Paul literally said in his press conference he made, a jab at him for being, for domestic abuse. So it's not like they didn't know that Tank did this kind of stuff. This is no surprise. But it's just that they don't want, current people forget about that. People have short attention spans. People forget that Tank got arrested for that in like 2021 or whatever it was. People are only talking about what's happening right now, and what happened 1 week ago is Tank had these accusations against him. So they're trying to save face. I get it. But yeah, so now we do have confirmation there will be a Jake Paul fight on Netflix in December. We don't have a date yet, and we also do not have a location. We don't have an opponent. The replacement opponents, we talked about them last week. A lot of different names. The one that everyone wanted to see the most is Francis Ngannou. Ngannou says he felt disrespected that they reached out to him to be the replacement for a lightweight boxer, so he's not doing it, which I think is silly because I think Ngannou would probably knock out Jake Paul and make a ton of money doing so. Obviously, after that, Jake Paul had something, just be honest and say that you're afraid to lose to a YouTuber, and Ngannou went back and forth. So they had a big back and forth. So I feel like that fight could build quite nicely. And hey, you know what? Maybe they will be able to get a deal done and they'll have that fight happen. I don't know, but it doesn't look likely at the moment. We know the Ryan Garcia was reached out to, but that can't happen. Edgar Berlanga threw his hat in the ring. I would love to see that. Jake is bigger than Berlanga, but not much bigger. So that would be a pretty, a good fight where I would probably favor Berlanga in. Rolly Romero as well. He's been calling out Jake Paul. I get it. I personally, again, I don't really have a lot of interest in seeing Rolly get in there with him just because he is also a lot smaller. And Rolly has the chance to fight Manny Pacquiao, which is a much more legitimate and big fight. So I would probably stick to that. The one that, unfortunately, apparently has accepted the deal. We haven't heard anything since then, but Nate Diaz said that he accepted the offer for a rematch. I have no interest in a rematch between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. We saw it 2 years ago. Diaz has fought once since then. Jake Paul's fought like 6 times. He's much, much better of a fighter now than he was then, too. And he kind of dominated Nate Diaz in that boxing match. So, yeah, I really don't have any interest in seeing them run it back. I don't see any reason why we need to see that. So, yeah, if that is what it's going to be, it'll be fine. But I'll definitely be disappointed because that's not a fight that warranted a rematch in the slightest. But hey, you know what? We'll see what they do. I'm sure we'll hear news on that probably in the next week on who Jake Paul's fighting and where it'll be and when. But yeah, so interesting times. We also have a lot of fights coming up this week, and let's talk about the big one. Vergil Ortiz Jr., he's back in business, back in action, fighting one Erickson Lubin. Obviously, Lubin coming off a few good wins at 154, beat RGL Holmes earlier this year in a stinker of a fight, but I thought that Lubin looked decent in that. Before that, he hadn't fought in a while, fought Jesus Ramos in a fight that I didn't actually think that he won. So, if I'm being honest, I would be very surprised if Lubin wins this fight. Not to say that I don't think he's good. I mean, I think he's probably like top 8 fighters in this weight class, and it's the best weight class in the sport. I think he's really good. But, I mean, just when you look at Vergil, I think he's the best fighter in this weight class right now. I think that he's an absolute monster. He stops almost everyone, and I'm totally going to get behind him to win by stoppage this weekend. It's definitely going to be up there with one of his, tougher fights, and he's not ducking anyone. He's still fighting a top 10 opponent. I just think that Ortiz is significantly better than Lubin today. So, yeah, that's where my prediction goes. Obviously, the big talk is, you win this. Is it going to be Boots Ennis next? Apparently, Boots is going to be in Dallas for this fight. So, if Vergil stops him, I think we get a face-off in the ring. I love that fight. I think that is such a good fight for boxing, for this division. It would be awesome. And we know that Team Boots is very much game for it. I don't think that Ortiz ducks people, so I would hope that he's game for it. I'm a little bit worried about what Oscar's been saying. Kind of has me in doubts that Oscar does want that fight. But, dude, that's such a good fight, and that is genuinely such a 50-50. I would love to see that one happen next at 154 if Vergil can get through Lubin, which is a tall task, but I think that Ortiz is pretty tall. As for that undercard, co-main event's going to be Darius Fulgham versus David Stevens. We were meant to have Floyd Schofield versus Jojo Diaz, which would have been a lot of fun, but Schofield got injured again. I think this is a pretty good comeback opponent for Fulgham. Stevens is tough, but I would definitely favor Fulgham in that. And you also got Robin Safar back in action on this card. Amari Jones making his Golden Boy debut. You have Joshua Edwards, who's obviously a great heavyweight prospect. Eric Priest as well. So a lot of good Golden Boy fighters are back in action on Saturday in Texas. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, this is a pretty big fight for the division. And if Ortiz wins this, we could get a battle of interim champions between Ortiz and Boots. That's how good that division is. That these two are probably the best in the division actually. But they're both interim champions, which is interesting. We do have another UFC Apex Fight Night, 2 in a row. Last week's was surprisingly newsworthy, obviously, with the betting scandal. So hopefully nothing like that happens this week. Definitely don't want any fixed fights. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. This card, it's not really looking good. Main event, Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. Not a bad matchup, but it's just not main event worthy. I'm picking Bonfim to win this one. He is a little bit of he's not a huge favorite, but he's on a 3-fight win streak. Looks like Brown is only on a 1-fight win streak. And, Bonfim has had kind of some better wins in there coming off the Wonder Boy win. Yeah, so I'm picking him to win that. Co-main event is going to be Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales. You have Muslim Salikov versus Uros Medic, that's actually a pretty good fight. Chris Padilla, Ismail Bonfim, and then Christian Leroy Duncan back against Marco Tulio. And I think it's only a 5-fight main card, it looks like. So I don't know. I'm excited for it just to watch it. These Apex cards. I feel like last week it kind of got a bad rap for all the eye poke situation on that as well, and the betting scandal. But it was actually not a bad card to watch. Not really any names on it, but some fun finishes here and there. And I'm hoping for the same on this card. I'm hoping. But we're just going to have to see how it goes. Some other fights we have this weekend. GBM's The Heist. I am really, really excited for this. I love the tournaments, if they can pull it off right. And the fact that we're going to get an 8-man tournament in one night is so exciting to me. As for who we think is going to win it, it's hard to say. A lot of these guys, if I'm being honest, I'm not even too familiar with. One of the fighters I am more familiar with, and I think is the tournament favorite, is James Osborne. He's been on a really good run. He's had had a really great, I think it was a first-round knockout in his last fight. I think he's mandatory for the English Championship at 168 pounds. So he could end up fighting, I wanted him to fight Troy Williamson kind of, and then Troy Williamson, obviously, we're going to talk about later. He's got a new fight booked. But, yeah, I'm thinking that I would favor James Osborne to win this. He fights Harris Khan in the first round of the tournament, who is 7-0. So that's a good matchup. Taz Nadeem as well. He could be a dark horse. Again, he's only had 7 pro fights, same as Harris Khan. And then you've also got guys in here who've had a lot more pro experience. So I don't know. This is first real fight for Nadeem. So we'll see if he can get through. Maybe he can win this if he has. I think he definitely has a bright future, but I don't know how far he can go this early on. He's gonna be fighting Liam O'Hare, who's 13-1. Jermaine Brown as well. He's fighting S.A. Smith, who S.A. Smith actually does hold a win over James Osborne. So, we'll see how that goes. Maybe if they match up later, then you'll get a rematch, which is kind of fun. And then you also have Ellis Stewart versus Rizard Luvisky. All of these people have really good records overall. I think this is actually a very, very well-matched tournament. I'm looking forward to it. Elsewhere on the card, not a whole lot going on. Louis Sylvester's got another fight. But, not much else to talk about except for that tournament. It's going to be 3 rounds, 3 minutes, every fight, 3 rounds. So, once you get to the final, there's a chance you'll be fighting 9 rounds across the night. So, yeah, I like doing the 3-round fights. I have no objections to it. And yeah, so we're just going to see who comes out on top in this one. And they're pro-sanctioned, too. They're legit pro fights. So, that's cool to see that they're going to be a tournament, and it's going to be on their records that they may have won 3 times in one night. And then we do also have another Pro Box TV card tonight, which I'm excited for. Not a lot of fights on it, only 6, but that's okay. Main event, Niklaus Flaz versus Tiger Johnson. Tiger Johnson, obviously undefeated, top-ranked prospect. This is his first real challenge. I think this is like a 50-50 fight. I actually am probably leaning in the favor of Tiger Johnson. Again, I'm just worried about, is this too early for him? Like I said, he's never really had a tough challenge like this. Niklaus Flaz, he's got wins over guys like Jahai Tucker, so not bad there. Does have a loss to Janelson Boca Chica and another one earlier than that against Hushidbek Normatov. I don't even know who that is. So, he has lost before, whereas Tiger Johnson has not. Tiger hasn't looked incredible in every fight he's had, but I do think he's a really good fighter. I think he has a bright future. Again, it's just a question of, are we moving him a little bit too early? Is Top Rank, Top Rank doesn't have a TV deal. Are they kind of pushing their guys a little bit too fast to keep them busy when this is the only opportunity they have, is to throw them into the deep end? Let's see. Let's see if he can swim. But I like this fight a lot. Should be fun. Winner of this could emerge as a new player in the 147-pound division. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Co-main event, you're going to have Katsuma Akatsugi, who is a very good bantamweight. He's fighting Vincent Astrolabio, who, of course, had he challenged for the title against Junto Nakatani last year. Didn't last long, but he challenged. I would have to think Akatsugi is pretty confidently a favorite in this. I'm picking him to win. And again, Akatsugi is probably not too far off from a world title shot. Bantamweight is a somewhat thin division in the grand scheme of things. And he can fit in really well to the top table and get a good win after this. You also have Dominic Valle on this card, who is taking a very big step up, and he's going to be fighting Rene Alvarado over 8 rounds. Rene Alvarado is a guy who's got a lot of losses, but is still in there. He just recently upset Eric Morales on the Jake Paul Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. undercard. That was a really good performance, I thought. I thought he dominated a guy who, was coming up the ranks like a rising prospect. And we'll see. Dominic Valle, I do think is good, but I don't know, man. This is a very, very tall task. So I'll pick Valle, but I'm not overly confident in it. I'm really not. You also got Emilio Garcia back in action on this card. And then both the Bocanegra brothers, Xavier and Ranulfo, would both have their Xavier's 9th fight, Ranulfo's 5th fight on this card. So, yeah, a bit of a prospects. Not a whole lot of action on the undercard, but all these prospects are pretty solid. And then you've got some really well-matched fights at the top of the card, per usual, for Pro Box TV standards. One event that I'm very excited for is the MF Dual card, Misfits Boxing. Probably their smallest show they've ever done. It's not even part of the main X series, and they're kind of restructuring. But I think this is a pretty fun lineup of fights. As we look at it, you've got main event is going to be Lil Cray Cray versus Fox the G. These are two guys who I think are probably two of the best fighters that Misfits has in terms of the typical social media fighters. Lil Cray Cray, he was actually a pretty good amateur, and then he did YouTube street fights, and so now he's in Misfits. Really, really good. Won their tournament last year after actually losing in the first round, then getting to come back in and fight the same guy who he had lost previously to in the finals. So, he's now at the top, and he's got the lightweight championship. And then meanwhile, you've also got Fox the G, who just had his first fight last year, but he's looked so good. He's knocked everyone out. He's really, really exciting. And this is a very good fight. And I'm a big fan of Fox the G. I think he's pretty funny. But if I'm choosing a favorite, I do have to lean towards Lil Cray Cray, but this is a really, really well-matched fight. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're just going to have to see who's going to come out on top in this lightweight main event. Also on the card, co-main event, Andrei Arlovsky makes his Misfits debut. He's going to be fighting Kells, who again is a Misfits boxer. He challenged for their heavyweight title against Chance Demore. Wasn't that great. He's got a lot of power. That's his thing, but that's about it. So definitely Andrei Arlovsky. I'm favoring him to win this, probably inside the distance. We'll see where this can go. You also have Julie Polka, who's probably the best female fighter the Misfits has. She holds their championship. I think it's the cruiserweight, which is really just 145 pounds championship. She's going to be fighting Monica Medina, who I'm looking at her Tapology. She has a 3-5 pro MMA record. So definitely a bit of a disappointing opponent for Julie Polka. They're putting her up, want her to get the Chris Cyborg fight, which is a big ask, just to make the fight happen at all. And then you talk about actually winning it. I don't think that's going to happen. But, they had her fighting some BKFC fighters, some decent fighters in the past. But this just looks like they found a random pro MMA fighter for her to fight. I don't know. Elsewhere on the card, you've got a lot of pro fighters. Ashton H2O Silva is finally making his ring return. He hasn't fought in over a year since the Lucas body knockout. You know, he's just coming back in an 8-rounder against Daniel Lugo, who is 6-3. So definitely a fight that H2O should win. I still think H2O is a really, really good fighter, and I do think that he can, you know, climb to the world champion level again one day if he shows that he doesn't, he can avoid getting caught and doesn't have a really poor chin like we saw in that body knockout. But we'll see, man. I love that he's gone over to Misfits. You also got Amir Anderson, who's a great, great prospect. Jahan Ingram as well, another good prospect. And then Austin Dule, who is 18-4. I don't know why he's on this card, but he is. He's in an 8-rounder. Okay. And then you've got B-Dave, who is one of the funniest guys on Misfits. He fought like 5 times in 2023. He was on every Misfits card and was just always in fun fights. He's on their tag team, their Survivor tag, everything. He's back against Sean Stewart. No idea who Sean Stewart is. So we'll see. But I would have to favor B-Dave. I think he's had some stuff on like the Aiden Ross boxing shows, which I don't watch. And then you have Argentinian King, Small Spartan J, which is again, another pretty fun matchup in the world of Misfits. If you don't follow Misfits, I get it. I do, and I have a good bit of fun with it. Small Spartan J is a lot of fun. He's got some good power, and he's small, very small. So he may get the win there. But, yeah, a lot of fun fights looking forward to this weekend. That's on a Sunday. Like I said, ProBox TV is tonight, Friday. And then you've got Vergil Ortiz, UFC, and GBM's The Heist Tournament on Saturday. So good weekend of action coming up. Let's talk about some of the news that have come out in the last few days. The first one that just broke last night. Apparently, Xander Zayas, Abass Baraou has been agreed for the WBA, WBO Super Welterweight Unification fight January 31st in Puerto Rico. I love it. Both these guys just won their belts, and they're already unifying, while, you know, the likes of Sebastian Fundora is fighting not great opposition in Keith Thurman, Cordell Booker. Tim Tszyu is a good fight, but he's already beaten him. And, you know, as Fundora vacated the belt to literally not fight Zayas. And then you've got Bakram Murtazaliev, who hasn't fought in over a year. He is finally about to fight Josh Kelly, but still, you know. But, dude, Xander Zayas just won his belt. Abass Baraou just won his belt, and they're already looking to unify. I love that. I love that, you know, look, if you want to be able to, if you want to go into these unification fights early in your career, you can do it. So I love it. I would favor Zayas at this moment, but again, this is a much more competitive fight than I think a lot of people are realizing. My biggest question is, who's putting up the money for this fight? Is this a top-ranked show? They still don't have a broadcaster. There have been rumors that Zayas' January Puerto Rico homecoming is going to be the start of Top Rank's new TV deal for a while. However, we still don't know what that TV deal is with, or even if they have one. So maybe Top Rank is just hoping to get one signed soon. I don't know. It's a disaster. I'm not sure who is putting up this fight. I would have to think it is Top Rank, because it's definitely not Wasserman Boxing. I had thought this fight was maybe going to happen on the Serrano Cruz 2 undercard. It's not. That's another big card in January, which we actually found out the undercard for, which we'll talk about in a bit. But, yeah, I thought we were going to get this fight on that bill. But looks like it's going to be its own card, and I'm just curious if Top Rank is finally back in the table of in the business of making big fights on their own. Terrence Crawford, rumors that he is reporting in March, and I saw Chris Mannix just mentioned his own event. I don't think that means that it's a Crawford promoted card. At least I hope not. I think it's probably a Turkey event. I'm curious who he's fighting. What I'm thinking is it'll probably be Carlos Adames. We know that Janabek and Arislandi Lara are fighting 3 of the belts. At middleweight will be with one person then. I don't think Crawford wants to stay at 168. He can drop down to 160 and then become what, like would he be a 5-division champion then? No, he'd be a 6-division champion, yeah. Conquer his 6th division, maybe even go undisputed there and go for the 4-belt unification. You know, I mean, if he fights, if he goes in, by the way, I love the quick turnaround for Crawford. Again, 6 months, not a quick turnaround, but quick for Crawford. He usually fights every 14 months. So good to see that he's coming back earlier, and maybe he can even have 2 fights next year. If he comes back, if he beats Adames in March, and then end of the year fights the winner of Janabek Lara for undisputed and becomes the first 4-division champion in boxing, it would be unbelievable. Or 4-division undisputed. It would just be ridiculous, and I'd love to see it. The WBC have lifted their ban on Ryan Garcia. Coincidentally, this comes just days after we learn that Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios are deep into negotiations for a world championship. Obviously, Barrios is the WBC welterweight champion of the world, and you know Ryan Garcia is going to fight for that belt. So the WBC is like, oh, we got to lift our ban on him. I don't know. I mean, Garcia has fought since then. If he's no longer using steroids to win or whatever it was, PEDs, it's okay. We can lift the ban. I mean, much other people, they serve bans. Their bans get ended a lot quicker, so it's not like I can sit here and complain about them lifting the ban because, I mean, you know, I think that a lot of other fighters get their bans lifted pretty easily. I mean, Francisco Rodriguez, when he beat Glorified, did he even have a ban put on him? Did he? I think he got stripped of his interim champion status, but did he even have a ban? Is he even banned with the WBC? I don't know if he is because they initially ordered a rematch. So I don't know. Um, the IBF have ordered purse bids for the heavyweight title eliminator between Daniel Dubois and Frank Sanchez. So it looks like Dubois is up for this fight. Frank Sanchez has been looking to have an eliminator against anybody, and nobody's been taking it. Some with good reason, some without. But Dubois, I mean, hey, he's like, I'll take it. You know, I'll jump right back in there and get made mandatory to fight Usyk again. No interest in seeing Dubois and Usyk fight again, and I actually think that Dubois he will vacate the belt if they try and make him fight Dubois because there's just no interest in that whatsoever. But you know what? Hey, Daniel Dubois looking to come back in a big fight. Frank Sanchez is a good opponent. I would love to see that one next. Why not? We're also hearing that Artur Beterbiev saying that he is a free agent now. So it looks like his deal with Top Rank has ended. And I don't know if this has always been meant to end at this time or if he decided to leave it because they are not getting many fights because they don't have a TV deal. And if so, this would be the first big Top Rank fighter to not be okay with the lack of broadcast partner and to leave. Beterbiev is one of Top Rank's biggest stars. He's one of their best fighters. And he is leaving the promotion into free agency. So we'll see if he gets picked up by anyone. Maybe Eddie Hearn will sign him. I don't really know. Maybe he'll just work with Eye of the Tiger in Canada, or he'll just only be fighting on the big Saudi shows. Remains to be seen. But yeah, he has been cleared of his stuff with Top Rank, and he's no longer a Top Rank fighter, which is crazy. What else? Callum Simpson, Troy Williamson has been announced for December 20th in Leeds on BBC 3. Obviously, we know that they're probably not going to get any boxing on BBC 1, but 3 feels like it's much lower down on the running order. I don't know. I'm okay with this fight. I really am. It's going to do good numbers in Leeds. Hopefully we get a good undercard. I don't know. This is just a few weeks after their first show on BBC, so we'll be able to tell much better what the product looks like. They are going to clash with the Andrew Tate fight and the Matchroom show in Ghana. A lot of action coming very close to Christmas this year. So I don't know. It remains to be seen what the BBC fight cards look like, what the broadcast looks like. But as for the fight itself, it's fine. Simpson's easily going to win and probably will stop him, but yeah, this is not really competitive of a fight, not too competitive. I was hoping Simpson was going to step up. There's no need for him to stay at British, European level. He's ready to go and try and get into some contender level fights, and I hope that they don't keep him here for too long. This is his 4th fight of the year, and I don't hate it, but I just, I think that he's capable of getting into bigger fights than this. We also had the official announcement of the big Japan card on December 17th. Doesn't look like Ola Squaga is going to be fighting as we thought he was, but we are still going to be getting Nonito Donaire versus Seiya Tsutsumi for the WBA Bantamweight Championship. Looks like Antonio Vargas has been made champion in recess after being injured. I like this fight. Tsutsumi's definitely going to win it. I hope that Donaire doesn't get too hurt. He is like 40, and Tsutsumi is a monster, so I don't see this one going the distance. Again, I just hope that Donaire's corner take good care of him. And then you also have Kyosuke Takami and Rene Santiago unifying. Again, these guys both just won their belts, already unifying. Takami's one of the youngest world champions right now, as is Zayas. So, yeah, I love seeing the newer, younger champions just not wanting to mess around, not take these mandatories. Obviously do it if they have to, but go straight into unification fights. Why not? That's the point of, for me, I always just want to see champions unify. That's the best thing we can do, and love that they're doing that more so, it seems. So, yes, some good fights on December 17th. We also had the announcement of the big Amanda Serrano, Erica Cruz undercard. Stephanie Hahn versus Holly Holm in the co-main event, WBA Lightweight World Championship. Good fight. Holly Holm obviously returning to boxing. Has looked pretty good in her comeback fight in June. Stephanie Hahn had a title defense in August. 2 MVP fighters. Like it a lot. I'd probably favor Holly Holm, but who knows, man. Stephanie Hahn is a world champion currently. Crystal Rosado obviously also returning after her controversial loss to Sharetta Metcalf. That was a close fight, and she didn't get the nod in. Yankiel Rivera is back fighting Jonathan Gonzalez, who, was just holding the championship belt at 108 just like a year or two ago. And now, and obviously fought Olasquaga, didn't do great in that. And now he's fighting Yankiel Rivera, who I think is pretty good. Obviously, his last fight was terrible with Cordova, so hopefully he can leave a better taste in our mouths after this. But that's a good matchup. Jean-Paul Rivera as well. He's fighting Alfredo Cruz. Rivera's a really good fighter. Henry LeBron, who's 20-0. He's fighting Juan Tapia. And then you've got Chris Echevarria versus Gabriel Bernardi on the card as well. So, yeah, so a lot of good Puerto Rican fighters and just fights in general on this event. I'm looking forward to it, man. Looks like MVP's putting together another solid show in January. And two big fights coming to Puerto Rico that month. Serrano Cruz 2 and Abass Baraou. It's crazy. Big news, Claressa Shields has signed a big deal, like an $8 million minimum deal with both Salida Promotions and Win Records. So this means that she's not only going to be doing boxing in this deal, but also music and other media, so maybe like some acting. I don't know. Again, I don't really care about the music and media part of it, but the boxing thing, she's signing with Salida Promotions. I thought that she was maybe going to jump over to MVP. She has a little bit of an odd relationship with them, so I guess I'm not entirely surprised that she decided to not go that route, even though I think that's the best route for her. Obviously, she has a good relationship with Salida, and he's done pretty good by her, but I think it's time to just go somewhere new where they can get you more meaningful fights, and MVP has all of the good women's fighters right now. Salida doesn't have much to offer her except for these weird heavyweight fights, so I don't know. I would have rather seen her go with MVP, but she's sticking with Salida Promotions for probably the rest of her career. We also have some additions to this November 22nd card in Saudi Arabia. I was a little bit surprised by. The most important one that's been added is Vito Milnicki will now be fighting on this card against Samuel Nmoma in a 10-round fight at middleweight. Nmoma is 21-0. I'm not too familiar with him, but so maybe that's a decent matchup there. You got Muhammad Al-Akel. He's back on this card. Julio Porras Ruiz and Sultan Al-Mohamed are all on BoxRec now. They've all been listed as fighting on this card. So looks like we're getting our prelims set in place and another 10-round fight between Vito Milnicki and another undefeated fighter. So, yeah, a good card coming on November 22nd. And that's just the undercard. The main card, of course, is stacked with Benavidez Yard, Haney Norman, Rodriguez Martinez, Mason Noakes. It's going to be a very, very fun event towards the end of this month. I watched the new PFL CEO, John Martin. He did an interview with Ariel Helwani, and I got to say, I really like where they're going. They said that they are not going to be doing the World Tournament format in 2026. Both that and Europe, no more tournaments. They are still going to be doing the tournaments for the MENA and Africa, little mini seasons that they do. It was also announced that those will now be on Vice TV. For their championships, which are both in December, and then for all of next year, that's where they'll be streamed. So good. Unfortunate, actually, because we were getting them for free on the PFL app. Now they're going to be behind another subscription, so I don't know if I'm going to continue to watch those events. But, so they're going to keep doing the tournaments there. But then as for the big shows in the U.S., Europe, some of the Middle East stuff, it's going to be just PFL Global, where they're just going to be doing UFC-style fight nights. You'll have a championship fight or two headlining each card. They said they want to do 10 events in the U.S. next year, around 4 or so in Europe, and then a handful in the Middle East. So I love that. I love hearing we're going to get, around probably 12 to 16 or so events from PFL, big events in 2026. No need to keep doing the tournaments. It's just they were cool, but the product wasn't really working, and I think it'll be much better if we just, create rankings. We got a whole system, and everything is good to go for 2026. And so, yeah, it just seems like they're moving in a much better direction right now. And also, if they do this, UFC left ESPN. PFL has one deal left on their ESPN. If they do this and the viewership gets a lot better, they may get re-signed with ESPN, and they may get much more focus on the platform and become a much more real competitor with the UFC. So who knows? This could be very good. So I like the direction they're moving in. We talked a little bit about PFL moving on to Vice TV for the MENA and Africa products. We've got a lot of broadcast updates. So Top Rank announced that both the Espinoza Kagai and Nasukawa Inoue fights will be on Top Rank Classics in the U.S. Or actually, maybe not even only in the U.S., a lot of other places probably, but this is how we're going to be able to watch them. This is how they broadcast the Michaela Mary Spencer fight in October. And I thought it worked decently well. They've got this Classics channel across many different sites like the Roku channel, Tubi, I think Pluto TV. And yeah, so they're just going to make it accessible for free for a lot of people. We were not going to be able to watch either of these cards before. Now they're both going to be able to be broadcast completely for free in the U.S. And yeah, so it's obviously a great sign. And it looks like they've kind of figured out a loophole while they're still working to get their broadcast channel their new TV deal set up. So yeah, they're just going to keep on doing these international co-promotions where they're able to say, hey, mind in the U.S. if we just put this on this channel and then we can all watch it for free. Obviously, I don't just want this to be the permanent thing. I want them to put on their own actual events in the U.S. and have a real TV deal. But for now, this is working, and it's working fine. Badu Jack versus Noah Michaelian 2 is going to be a pay-per-view. That's obviously happening in L.A. on December 13th. Like a $30 pay-per-view, which is stupid. That fight should not be a pay-per-view, but it's the only way fights like this can get made without a major promoter backing them. So I'm not surprised. The good thing, you're going to be able to buy it on Prime Video, Triller TV, like a lot of bigger sites that boxing fans use already. It'll be available on that, so that's good. And also, the Opataya versus Sin Cara fight will not be on DAZN, at least not in Australia. He was announced that it's going to be on Stand pay-per-view. And I looked at all the old posters. They never said DAZN at all for this fight, so I don't know if this means that Tasman Fighter specifically no longer has a deal with DAZN, or if this means that Matchroom, their global rights and their particularly the rights for Australia have ended up with DAZN. I'm hopeful that DAZN is still broadcasting this fight, in the U.S., and we'll be able to watch it like that. But yeah, definitely interesting and a bit worrying that it won't be on DAZN elsewhere in the world, but I hope it is. Lastly, the only other thing, last night in the middle of the night, because he was in Japan, they had the Naoya Inoue, David Picasso press conference. Only the Japanese fighters were there, and not much was really said just because they're all very respectful. The most notable thing to me was just to see Inoue and Nakatani sitting next to each other and kind of hint that it kind of seems like this fight is already agreed for May. And Inoue mentioned oh yeah, because they asked him, will you move up in weight? And he was like, well, focused on this and then the very big fight happening in May. And then after that, my team and I will decide what's best. So it does look like Inoue Nakatani may even already be agreed with Riyadh season to do an event in Tokyo in May next year. So I would love that. And we're just going to have to see it happens. But yeah, I mean, just seeing Inoue, Nakatani, Taraji all up there together, it's like, wow, these are really all the big guys of Japanese boxing all on one card out of the country. Another thing with Kenshiro Taraji, they did talk about Bam Rodriguez for a second, unifying. Because look, if Rodriguez beats Puma Martinez and Kenshiro Taraji beats Ryan Garcia, they're going to be the only two champions at 115 pounds. And them fighting for undisputed would be huge. So yeah, 115 is a very interesting division with this champion landscape, and yeah, so I'm liking very much where they're taking this, where this whole landscape in the division is going, and I'm excited for the card in December. It's going to be fun. And then lastly, the news broke today, and I just remembered to put it in my notes. DAZN Ultimate. So we now have the solution to pay-per-view, I guess you could say, with DAZN. Obviously, in the U.S. specifically, DAZN has been $20 a month. It is now going to be, if you want to choose this option, $45 a month, which is a lot more. However, it includes all of their pay-per-views. A minimum of 12 pay-per-view events will be included in the subscription for the next year, including Eubank Bentu, Benavidez Yard, Inoue Picasso, and whatever else they cook up for 2026. I think it's good. I think it's going to save a lot of money because think of it. If you have about one pay-per-view a month on DAZN, sometimes more, sometimes less, but about one, usually around $60, that's $20 in your subscription plus $60. You're almost paying for half of that if you just get the ultimate subscription. The only pushback, say you buy it for the whole month or even buy it for the year, you don't get to choose what pay-per-views you want to include in your deal. You pay for all of them. So say, there's a 3-month stretch where you only get one actual pay-per-view, and it's like a Parker versus Wardley level pay-per-view. And it's like, I'm not paying extra for this, so that's the only pushback. For me, I'm somebody who pays for, I watch every fight, so I'm totally going to upgrade to DAZN Ultimate. I think it's actually a pretty good deal, And look, yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's the best we can get. I think DAZN responded to some comment and said you're going to save like $530 a year. That's a lot of money when it only costs $450. If you just buy a subscription for the whole year, which again is a lot of money, but it's a lot less than what you would pay right now if you were to use the subscription and buy every pay-per-view. So I'm totally okay with this. It's better. Again, I would like it if it was just, less than that and we just didn't have these pay-per-view events at all. But and obviously, if you have the regular subscription, you'll still be able to buy the pay-per-views on their own, but it's going to cost you more overall in the long run. So, yeah, that's all I've got for today. Hope everybody enjoys the fight this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, all eyes on Vergil Ortiz to look good because everyone's watching, including Boots. And if Vergil wins and we get Boots Vergil next year, oh, man, that'd be awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. Yeah, peace out.